The stars looked different through the observation deck of the New Horizon. Captain Jake Morrison stood with his hands behind his back, watching the endless void of space as his ship drifted through the Kepler 442 system. The morning shift had just begun, and the familiar hum of the ship's engines created a comfortable background noise that had become like a lullaby to the crew after months in deep space. Jake had been commanding vessels for 15 years, but this mission felt different. They were not just exploring or mapping star systems. They were looking for signs of intelligent life, hoping to make contact with species that might help humanity expand beyond Earth. The weight of that responsibility sat heavy on his shoulders. As he sipped his coffee and watched the distant stars, the peaceful morning was interrupted by the sharp beep of the communications system. Lisa Carter's voice crackled through the speakers from the bridge. "Captain Morrison to the bridge immediately. We have something on the sensors." Jake set down his coffee cup and walked quickly through the corridors of the ship. The New Horizon was not the largest vessel in the human fleet, but it was well equipped for deep space exploration. The crew of 200 had been working together for over a year, and Jake trusted them with his life. They had encountered strange phenomena before, but Lisa's tone suggested this was different. When Jake reached the bridge, he found his senior staff already gathered around the main display screen. Lisa Carter stood at her communications station, her fingers dancing across the controls as she tried to clean up whatever signal she had detected. Dr. Sam Rodriguez, the ship's xenobiologist, was practically bouncing with excitement. Security. Chief Tom Baker stood with his arms crossed, his face showing the concern that Jake had learned to respect over the years. "Report," Jake said as he took his position in the captain's chair. Lisa looked up from her station. "We detected a vessel, approximately 50,000 kilometers off our starboard bow. It's not showing up clearly on our sensors, but it appears to be damaged. The hull signature doesn't match any known human or Earth-based design." Dr. Rodriguez stepped forward, his eyes bright with curiosity. "Captain, this could be our first contact with an alien species. The opportunity for scientific discovery is incredible." Tom Baker shook his head. "Or it could be a trap. We know nothing about who built that ship or what their intentions might be. For all we know, they could be hostile." Jake studied the display screen, which showed a fuzzy image of what appeared to be a ship. It was roughly the same size as the New Horizon, but its design was unlike anything he had ever seen. The hull seemed to flow in organic curves rather than the straight lines and angles of human engineering. Parts of it appeared to be missing or damaged, with what looked like scorch marks along the sides. "Are you detecting any life signs?" Jake asked. Lisa adjusted her controls. "It's difficult to tell with the interference, but I'm picking up what might be a distress signal. It's very weak, and it's not in any language or code that our computer recognizes." Jake made his decision. "Tom, I want you to prepare a security team. Sam, get your equipment ready for possible first contact protocols. Lisa, try to clean up that signal and see if you can establish communication." For the next hour, the bridge was a center of controlled activity. Lisa worked to boost the signal strength while Dr. Rodriguez prepared his xenobiology equipment. Tom Baker assembled a security team and ran through various scenarios that might develop if they encountered hostile aliens. Finally, Lisa's efforts paid off. The speakers crackled to life, and a voice came through the static. It was clearly feminine, but there was something otherworldly about it. The words were in broken English, spoken with an accent that Jake had never heard before. "Please help. Dying alone. The bridge fell silent." Even Tom Baker's expression softened as they listened to the desperate plea. The voice continued, sometimes clear and sometimes fading into static. "Ship damaged please anyone anyone. Jake looked around at his crew. Dr. Rodriguez was nodding enthusiastically. Tom Baker still looked concerned, but was no longer openly opposing the idea of making contact. Lisa was working to improve the signal quality. "Can you respond?" Jake asked Lisa. She nodded and activated the transmission system. Unknown vessel. This is Captain Jake Morrison of the human ship New Horizon. We have received your distress signal. What is your situation? The response came quickly, as if the alien had been waiting desperately for any reply. Human? You are human? Please. I am Zara of the Veltar. My ship is Dakan. I cannot fix. I am hurt. Please help. Jake felt a chill run down his spine. This was it. This was the moment that would change everything. Humanity's first contact with an alien species, and it was happening in the middle of deep space with a being who was clearly in distress. Zara, this is Captain Morrison. We want to help you. Are you injured? Do you need medical assistance? The voice that came back was weaker now, as if the effort of communication was draining her. Yes, injured. But more How do you say? Cast out. My people, they will not take me back. I am alone. Please I do not wish to die alone in the dark. Dr. Rodriguez stepped closer to the communications station. Captain, we have to bring her aboard. This is an incredible opportunity. And she clearly needs help. Tom Baker held up his hand. Captain, I recommend extreme caution. We don't know anything about this species or their capabilities. This could be a deception. Jake studied the readings on his screen. The alien ship was clearly damaged and appeared to be losing power. If this was a trap, it was an elaborate one. More importantly, the voice they had heard sounded genuinely desperate and afraid. Zara, can you transport to our ship? We have medical facilities and can provide assistance. There was a long pause before the reply came. I can use my emergency transport, but I must warn you. I am not like you. I may in you. My people Jake looked around at his crew. This was the moment of decision. They could help this alien being and potentially establish humanity's first peaceful contact with another species. Or they could play it safe and continue on their mission. Zara, we are not easily frightened. Transport to our medical bay? Doctor? Rodriguez will be there to help you. The response was so quiet they almost missed it. Thank you. Thank you for not leaving me alone. Jake turned to his crew. Tom, I want security teams on standby, but keep them out of sight. Sam, get to the medical bay and prepare for a xenobiology examination. Lisa, monitor all communications and sensors. Everyone remember that we are potentially making history today. As his crew scattered to their positions, Jake remained on the bridge, watching the sensors as they detected the energy signature of an alien transport system. In a few minutes, they would have their first alien visitor aboard a human ship. He hoped. They were making the right choice. The medical bay of the New Horizon had never seen anything like Zara. When the alien transport beam faded, Dr. Sam Rodriguez found himself face to face with a being that was both familiar and completely foreign. She was humanoid in shape, but stood nearly 6 feet tall with skin that held a soft blue tint like moonlight on water. Her hair was silver and seemed to shimmer with its own inner light, falling in waves past her shoulders. Her eyes were the most striking feature, large and dark blue, holding depths that seemed to contain the wisdom of ages. Zara's clothing was torn and stained with what appeared to be blood. Though it was darker than human blood, she swayed on her feet, clearly weak from her injuries. Dr. Rodriguez stepped forward slowly, his hands raised to show he meant no harm. I am Dr. Sam Rodriguez, he said gently. I am here to help you. Zara looked at him with those ancient eyes, and for a moment Sam felt as if she was seeing not just him but everything about him. You are kind, she said in her accented English. I did not expect kindness, most species. They do not understand. Sam guided her to one of the medical beds, noting how she moved with a grace that seemed almost liquid. As he began to examine her injuries, he activated his recording equipment. This was, after all, the first alien autopsy in human history, even if his patient was very much alive. Zara, can you tell me about your injuries? What happened to you? She winced as he cleaned a wound on her arm. My ship was attacked, not by enemies but by my own people. They cast me out. It is the way of the Veltar. Sam paused in his work. Your own people attacked you? Why? Zara's expression grew sad and she looked away. I broke the old ways. I suggested that we should ask for help instead of accepting death. My clan leader said I was weak, that I brought shame to our people. As Sam continued treating her wounds, Zara began to tell him about her people. The Veltar had been wandering the galaxy for over 1,000 years, never staying in one place for long. They lived on great ships that traveled between the stars, following ancient paths that their ancestors had carved through space. We were once a great people, Zara explained. We had a homeworld, cities, families. But something happened long ago. A plague or perhaps a curse. Our people began to, how do you say, fade? We could no longer have children with each other. Sam looked up from his medical scanner. Genetic incompatibility? Zara nodded. Yes, the children would be born weak, or not born at all. So we took to the stars, hoping to find a cure, but we found only more wandering. The door to the medical bay opened, and Lieutenant Amy Foster entered. She was the ship's cultural liaison, responsible for understanding and interpreting the customs of any new species they encountered. Amy was a small woman with brown hair and intelligent eyes that missed nothing. Dr. Rodriguez, Captain Morrison asked me to assist with cultural interpretation, Amy said, then turned to Zara. Hello, I am Amy Foster. I study how different peoples live and think. Zara studied Amy with curiosity. You study culture? That is ... interesting. Most species we meet care only for weapons or trade. Amy pulled up a chair and sat beside the medical bed. Zara, can you tell me more about your people's customs? I want to understand so we can help you better. What Zara told them over the next hour was both fascinating and heartbreaking. The Veltar had developed a harsh system of survival over their centuries of wandering. When their population dropped too low, they would send out individuals to find other species that might be genetically compatible. These volunteers would approach alien races and request genetic bonding. We call it the asking, Zara explained. The chosen one must find another species willing to share their genetic pattern. If they succeed, they can return to their clan with new genetic material that might save their people. If they fail... Amy leaned forward. What happens if they fail? Zara's voice became very quiet. They are cast out. They cannot return to their clan. They must either find another species to help them or die alone in space. Sam stopped his medical work and stared at her. How many species have you approached? 17, Zara said. 17. Species have rejected me. Some were kind about it. Others were not. Amy felt her heart sink. And if you can't find anyone, then I will die. My body is already beginning to fail. Without genetic renewal, the Veltar cannot survive. We need the genetic patterns of other species to keep our cells healthy. Dr. Rodriguez ran his scanner over Zara again, this time looking for signs of the cellular breakdown she described. What he found alarmed him. Her cellular structure was indeed deteriorating, but slowly. She might have weeks, perhaps a month, before the damage became irreversible. Zara, what exactly does this genetic bonding involve? Sam asked. She looked uncomfortable. It is ... intimate, not just physical but mental. The Veltar who bonds with another species shares their thoughts, their memories, their very essence. It is necessary for the genetic pattern to take hold properly. Amy and Sam exchanged glances. This was far more complex than they had imagined. It wasn't just about reproduction or even survival. It was about a fundamental sharing of consciousness between species, and if someone agrees to this bonding, Amy asked. Then both beings are changed, Zara said. The Veltar gains new genetic stability and life. The other being gains some of our knowledge and abilities. We become connected. Sam made more notes in his medical log. Connected how? We can sense each other's thoughts and feelings. We share memories. In a way, we become part of each other while remaining ourselves. Amy stood up and began pacing. This is incredible. And you've been rejected by 17 different species? Zara nodded sadly. Most species fear the bonding. They think we are trying to control them or steal their minds. Others simply find us disgusting. A few were interested, but their biology was not compatible with ours. What about humans? Sam asked. Are we compatible? Zara looked at him with hope flickering in her ancient eyes. I do not know. I would need to run tests, but perhaps your species has genetic diversity that might work with ours. Amy sat back down. Zara, I need to ask you something important. If humans agreed to help you, what would happen to your people? Would they stop wandering? If the bonding works, I could return to my clan with new genetic material. Other Veltar could then approach humans for bonding. Over time, we might finally be able to have children again. We could have a future. The medical bay fell silent as Amy and Sam absorbed this information. They were not just talking about helping one individual. They were potentially talking about saving an entire species from extinction. I need to run more tests, Sam said finally. And we need to discuss this with Captain Morrison. Zara reached out and touched his arm gently. Thank you for listening. Thank you for not casting me out immediately. It has been a long time since anyone showed me kindness. As Amy and Sam left the medical bay to report to the captain, Zara lay back on the medical bed and stared at the ceiling. For the first time in months, she felt something she had almost forgotten. Hope. Danny Clark had always been the quiet one on the New Horizon. While other crew members gathered in the recreation areas or the dining hall, Danny preferred to spend his time in the communications center, listening to the sounds of space. He was 28 years old with brown hair and gentle eyes that seemed to notice things others missed. As the ship's communications specialist, he was responsible for monitoring all incoming and outgoing signals, but his real passion was languages and cultures. When word spread through the ship about their alien visitor, Danny felt a curiosity that was different from his crewmates. While Dr. Rodriguez was excited about the scientific possibilities and security chief, Tom Baker worried about potential threats. Danny found himself thinking about Zara as a person. He had heard the desperation in her voice when she first called for help, and something about her situation touched him deeply. 3 days after Zara's arrival, Danny decided to visit the medical bay. He told himself he was just checking on the communications equipment that Dr. Rodriguez had installed to help translate Zara's language, but he knew that wasn't the real reason. He was curious about this being who had traveled across the galaxy only to be rejected by 17 different species. When Danny entered the medical bay, he found Zara sitting on the edge of the medical bed, staring out the small window at the stars. She had been given clean clothes from the ship's supplies, and her injuries were healing, but she still looked fragile and sad. Hello, Danny said softly, not wanting to startle her. Zara turned to look at him, and Danny was struck by how beautiful and ancient her eyes appeared. You are the voice, she said. The one who speaks through the communications. Danny nodded. I'm Danny Clark. I work with the communication systems. Danny? She repeated, as if testing the name. That is a good name. It sounds friendly. Danny pulled up a chair and sat down a respectful distance away. How are you feeling? Are your injuries healing well? Zara smiled sadly. My body heals, but my spirit. That is harder to fix. Dr. Rodriguez is kind, but he sees me as a puzzle to solve. Captain Morrison sees me as a problem to handle. You see me as a person. Danny was surprised by her perception. You can tell that just by looking at me? My people are good at reading others. We have to be. When you wander the galaxy asking for help, you learn to recognize kindness quickly. Over the next hour, Danny and Zara talked about many things. She told him about her childhood on the great ships of her people, how she had learned to navigate by the stars before she could walk properly. She described the beauty of nebulae seen from close range and the loneliness of deep space. In return, Danny told her about Earth, about the oceans and forests and cities that humans had built. He shared stories of his own childhood in a small town in Colorado, where he had spent hours lying in fields and looking up at the stars, wondering what was out there. I always dreamed of meeting someone from another world, Danny said. But I never imagined it would be like this. Zara's expression grew thoughtful. What did you imagine? I don't know. Maybe something more like the movies with grand speeches and ceremonies. Not someone hurt and alone asking for help. Would you prefer the grand speeches? Zara asked. Danny shook his head. No, this feels more real, more honest. As the days passed, Danny found himself returning to the medical bay whenever his duties allowed. He brought Zara books about Earth and human culture, and she shared stories of the worlds her people had visited. She told him about the crystal forests of Andromeda 7 and the singing mountains of Kepler 62. She described species that lived in gas clouds and others that existed as pure energy. Your people have seen so much, Danny said one evening as they sat together in the medical bay. We have wandered far, but we have never found home, Zara replied. Sometimes I wonder if we have forgotten what home means. Danny noticed that Zara's health was declining despite Dr. Rodriguez's best efforts. She moved more slowly now, and her skin had lost some of its blue glow. When he asked Dr. Rodriguez about it, the doctor's expression was grim. The cellular breakdown is accelerating, Dr. Rodriguez explained. Without genetic renewal, she has maybe 2 weeks before the damage becomes irreversible. That night, Danny couldn't sleep. He walked the corridors of the ship, thinking about Zara's situation. The crew had been debating what to do for days, but no one had volunteered to help her. The implications were too complex, too frightening. For most people to consider. Captain Morrison had called for volunteers twice, but each time the crew had remained silent. Danny understood their hesitation. The bonding process that Zara described sounded intimate and permanent. It would change whoever participated in ways that no one could predict, but as Danny walked through the quiet ship, he kept thinking about Zara's words, "I do not wish to die alone in the dark." She had traveled across the galaxy, been rejected by 17 species, and was now facing death far from her own people. The unfairness of it made Danny's chest tight with emotion. The next morning, Danny returned to the medical bay to find Zara sitting by the window again. She looked weaker than before, and her breathing seemed labored. "Good morning, Danny," she said, but her voice was quieter than usual. "Good morning, Zara. How are you feeling?" She turned to look at him, and Danny saw resignation in her ancient eyes. "I am dying," she said simply. "Dr. Rodriguez tries to help, but there is nothing he can do. My body is failing." Danny felt a sharp pain in his chest. "There has to be something we can do." Zara shook her head. "I have asked for help from 18 species now, 18 rejections. Perhaps it is time to accept that the Veltar are meant to fade from the galaxy." "Don't say that," Danny said, surprising himself with the intensity of his response. "Don't give up. What choice do I have?" Zara asked. "I cannot force anyone to help me. The bonding must be freely given, or it will not work." Danny stood up and began pacing around the medical bay. "Tell me about the bonding again. What exactly happens?" Zara looked at him with curiosity. "Why do you want to know?" "Just tell me, please." Zara explained the process again, how the Veltar and their partner would share genetic material, memories, and consciousness. The bond would be permanent and would change both beings in fundamental ways. "And this would save your life?" Danny asked. "Yes, and it would give my people hope. New genetic material that might allow us to survive." Danny stopped pacing and stood in front of the window, looking out at the stars. He thought about his quiet life on the New Horizon, his work with communications, his dream of meeting alien life. He thought about Zara's people, wandering the galaxy for 1,000 years, slowly dying out. "Danny," Zara said softly. "What are you thinking?" Danny turned to look at her. "I'm thinking that nobody should have to die alone in the dark." Zara's eyes widened. "Danny, what are you saying?" "I'm saying that I want to help you, if you'll have me." Zara stared at him in shock. "Danny, you don't understand what you're offering. The bonding will change you forever. You will be connected to me for the rest of your life. You will carry part of my memories, my experiences. It is not something to decide quickly." Danny sat down beside her bed. "I've been thinking about it for days. I understand the risks. But I also understand that you're dying, and I have the power to help you. How can I live with myself if I don't try? Tears began to fall from Zara's strange blue eyes. Why would you do this for me? We barely know each other. Danny reached out and gently touched her hand. Because you're not just an alien to me. You're a person who needs help, and sometimes that's all that matters. Zara looked at their joined hands, then back at Danny's face. Are you certain? Once the bonding begins, there is no going back. Danny nodded. I'm certain. Let's save your life. Dr. Helen Wright had been the chief medical officer on 3 different ships during her career, but she had never faced anything like what Danny Clark was asking her to do. She stood in her office reviewing the medical data that Dr. Rodriguez had gathered about Veltar physiology, trying to understand the full implications of the bonding process that Danny had volunteered for. Are you absolutely sure about this, Danny? Dr. Wright asked for the 3rd time that morning. Once we begin this process, there's no way to reverse it. Danny sat across from her desk, his expression calm and determined. I'm sure, Dr. Wright. Zara is dying and I can help her. It's that simple. Dr. Wright looked at the young man who had quietly become one of her favorite crew members. Danny had always been reliable and kind, but this level of self-sacrifice was extraordinary. Danny, you understand that this bonding will change you permanently. You'll share memories and consciousness with an alien being. We don't know what that will do to your mind. I understand the risks, Danny said. But I also understand that Zara will die if nobody helps her. I can't live with that. Dr. Wright turned to Dr. Rodriguez, who was monitoring Zara's vital signs from his station. Sam, what's her current condition? She's deteriorating rapidly, Dr. Rodriguez said grimly. Her cellular structure is breaking down faster than we anticipated. If we're going to attempt this bonding, it has to be within the next 24 hours. Captain Morrison had given his approval for the procedure after a long discussion with his senior staff. The decision had not been easy, but with Danny's clear consent and Zara's critical condition, they had agreed to proceed. The medical bay had been converted into a special facility for the bonding process. Based on the information that Zara had provided about Veltar requirements, Zara lay on one of the medical beds, looking pale and weak. Her blue-tinted skin had faded to an almost gray color, and her breathing was labored. When Danny entered the medical bay, her eyes brightened slightly. Danny, she whispered, you came. Of course I came, Danny said, sitting beside her bed. How are you feeling? Weak, Zara admitted. My body is failing quickly now. Dr. Wright says we must begin soon. Dr. Wright activated the medical equipment. That would monitor both patients during the bonding process. Zara, I need you to explain exactly what will happen step by step. I want to be prepared for any complications. Zara struggled to sit up, and Danny helped support her. The bonding has 3 phases, she explained. First, we must achieve mental synchronization. Danny and I will need to meditate together, opening our minds to each other. This is the most dangerous part, as human minds may not be compatible with Veltar consciousness. What happens if we're not compatible? Danny asked. Zara's expression grew serious. Mental shock. Possibly permanent damage to both of us. But if we are compatible, we will begin to share surface thoughts and emotions. Dr. Wright made notes on her tablet. And the second phase? Memory sharing, Zara said. Our minds will exchange key memories and experiences. This is where the real bonding begins. Danny will experience some of my memories, and I will experience his. This creates the psychological foundation for the genetic bonding. Danny felt a flutter of nervousness. The idea of sharing his private memories with someone else was intimidating, but he pushed the fear aside. And the third phase? Physical bonding, Zara said. Our genetic material will combine at a cellular level. This is what will save my life and give my people new genetic patterns to work with, but it will also change both of us permanently. Doctor. Wright looked at the readings on her medical screens. Zara, your vital signs are dropping. We need to begin immediately. The medical bay had been dimmed to create a more peaceful atmosphere. Danny lay on a bed next to Zara's, close enough that they could hold hands. Dr. Wright and Dr. Rodriguez monitored their vital signs from a control station nearby. "Danny," Zara said softly, "are you ready?" Danny squeezed her hand gently. "I'm ready." Zara closed her eyes and began to breathe deeply. "Open your mind to me, Danny. Don't resist whatever you feel. Trust me." Danny closed his eyes and tried to relax. At first, nothing happened. Then, gradually, he became aware of a presence in his mind that was not his own. It was gentle and careful, like someone tiptoeing through a house they didn't want to disturb. The sensation was strange, but not unpleasant. Danny felt Zara's consciousness touching his own, and he tried to open his mind to her as she had instructed. Slowly, he began to sense her emotions. Fear, hope, gratitude, and something else that took him a moment to identify. Wonder. Zara was amazed by the complexity of human thought. "First phase successful," Dr. Wright announced. "Brain activity is synchronized between both subjects." Now, Danny began to experience flashes of memory that were not his own. He saw vast ships traveling through space, their hulls gleaming in the light of distant stars. He felt the loneliness of centuries of wandering, the gradual loss of hope as the Veltar population slowly declined. He experienced the pain of rejection after rejection as Zara sought help from species across the galaxy, but he also saw beautiful things, the birth of stars in cosmic nurseries, the dance of galaxies as they spun through the void, the joy of discovery when the Veltar found new worlds and new forms of life. Through Zara's memories, Danny experienced the wonder of a people who had seen more of the universe than any human could imagine. At the same time, Zara was experiencing Danny's memories. She saw Earth through his eyes, the blue oceans and green forests that her people had never known. She felt the warmth of human family connections, the simple joy of friends gathering together. She experienced Danny's childhood wonder at the stars and his dream of meeting alien life. "Phase 2 is progressing well," Dr. Rodriguez reported. "Their brain patterns are becoming more synchronized." As the memory sharing continued, Danny began to understand Zara in a way that went beyond words. He felt her deep love for her people and her desperate desire to save them. He experienced her loneliness after being cast out and her gratitude for his kindness. Most importantly, he felt her amazement at human compassion, something that many species had not shown her. Zara, in turn, began to understand Danny's quiet strength. She saw how he had always been the one to help others without seeking recognition. She felt his genuine desire to make a difference in the world, and his willingness to sacrifice himself for someone he barely knew. "Beginning Phase 3, Doctor," Wright announced, genetic bonding commencing. This phase was different from the mental connection. Danny felt a strange tingling sensation throughout his body, as if every cell was being gently rearranged. The feeling was not painful, but it was intense and overwhelming. Through their shared consciousness, Danny and Zara experienced the genetic bonding together. Their DNA began to merge and adapt, creating new patterns that would allow Zara's body to stabilize and function properly. But the process also changed Danny, giving him access to Veltar genetic memories and abilities. Danny began to see the universe differently. Colors became more vivid, and he could sense electromagnetic fields that he had never noticed before. His understanding of space and navigation expanded dramatically as Veltar knowledge integrated with his human consciousness. Zara's transformation was even more dramatic. Her skin began to regain its blue glow, and her breathing became stronger and more regular. The cellular breakdown that had been killing her stopped and reversed as new genetic patterns took hold. "Vital signs are stabilizing for both subjects," Dr. Wright reported with amazement. "The bonding appears to be successful." As the process completed, Danny and Zara opened their eyes and looked at each other. They were still themselves, but they were also something new. They could sense each other's thoughts and emotions, and they shared a connection that went deeper than anything either had experienced before. "How do you feel?" Dr. Wright asked. Danny sat up slowly, marveling at the new sensations in his mind. "Different, but good different. I can feel Zara's presence in my thoughts, but she's not controlling me. It's more like having a permanent companion." Zara smiled, and Danny could feel her joy and relief through their bond. "I am alive," she said simply, "and I am not alone anymore. Dr. Wright ran her medical scanners over both patients." "Remarkable. Danny, your brain activity has increased by 30%, and you're showing new neural pathways that weren't there before. Zara, your cellular structure has completely stabilized. You're both healthy and showing enhanced capabilities." Danny helped Zara sit up, and they held hands as they looked out the window at the stars. Through their bond, they shared a moment of perfect understanding. They had both been changed by the bonding, but they had also gained something precious. They had found connection in the vastness of space, and they had saved a life in the process. "What happens now?" Danny asked. Zara squeezed his hand. "Now we contact my people, and we show the galaxy what is possible when species choose to help each other instead of turning away." 3 weeks after the bonding, the New Horizon had become a very different ship. Danny Clark stood in the communications center, but now he was not alone. Through the mental connection he shared with Zara, he could feel her presence even when she was on the other side of the ship. It was a comforting sensation, like having a trusted friend always nearby. The changes in Danny were remarkable. His understanding of space navigation had improved dramatically, and he could now read star charts with the skill of someone who had spent decades traveling between systems. His ability to learn new languages had also increased, and he was already helping Dr. Rodriguez decode communications from other species that the ship had encountered. Zara's recovery had been even more impressive. Her health was now better than it had been in years, and her blue-tinted skin glowed with renewed vitality. But more importantly, the bonding had given her something she had not felt in a long time: hope. "Danny," Captain Morrison said as he entered the communications center, "are you ready to make contact with Zara's people?" Danny nodded, his fingers already moving across the control panel. Through his connection with Zara, he could feel her excitement and nervousness. She was in the observation lounge, but they were working together as if they were in the same room. "Beginning transmission now, Captain," Danny said. The message they were sending was not just a simple communication. Zara had composed it carefully, using the ancient formal language of her people. She was announcing the success of the bonding and extending an invitation for peaceful contact with humanity. Within hours, responses began arriving. The first came from Zara's own clan, the people who had cast her out for suggesting they seek help from other species. The clan leader's message was formal and cold, expressing surprise that Zara was still alive and demanding proof of the successful bonding. "He doesn't believe it worked," Zara explained to Captain Morrison and the senior staff as they gathered in the conference room. "My clan leader thinks I am lying to avoid the shame of failure. Can you prove it to him?" "Captain Morrison?" asked. Zara smiled. "Danny can." Danny activated the communication system and began speaking in perfect Veltar, a language he had never heard before 3 weeks ago. He spoke with knowledge of star navigation techniques that only the Veltar possessed, and he shared memories of nebulae and star systems that only Zara had seen. The response from the clan leader was immediate and shocked. Within minutes, more messages began arriving from other Veltar clans scattered across the galaxy. Word of the successful bonding was spreading rapidly through their people. "They want to come here," Zara explained as message after message arrived. "Many clans are changing course to reach this system. They want to see the humans who helped one of our kind." Dr. Rodriguez was practically vibrating with excitement. "This is incredible. We're about to host the largest gathering of alien species in human history." Security Chief Tom Baker looked concerned. "Captain, we don't know how many ships are coming or what their intentions are. We should be prepared for any possibility." Captain Morrison studied the star charts that Danny and Zara had prepared together. "How long before the first ships arrive?" "The nearest clan should reach us in about a week," Zara said. "But they will not come seeking conflict. My people are explorers and wanderers, not warriors." As the days passed, the New Horizon became a center of intense activity. Captain Morrison contacted Earth Command to report the situation, and soon Additional human ships were dispatched to the Kepler 442 system. Scientists, diplomats, and linguists were being sent to participate in what would be humanity's first formal contact with an alien civilization. Danny found himself at the center of it all. His unique connection with Zara made him the ideal translator and cultural interpreter. He could understand not just the Veltar language, but their way of thinking, their customs, and their needs. "I never expected this," Danny said to Zara as they stood together in the observation lounge, watching for the first Veltar ships to arrive. "When I volunteered to help you, I thought I was just saving one person's life." Zara took his hand, and through their bond, she shared her feelings of gratitude and amazement. "You did save one life, mine, but sometimes saving one life can change everything." The first Veltar ship appeared on the sensors exactly when Zara had predicted. It was a magnificent vessel, unlike anything in human design. The hull flowed in organic curves, and it seemed to shimmer with its own inner light. Captain Morrison hailed the ship, and the response came in perfect English. "This is Clan Leader Theron of the Wandering Star," the voice said. "We request permission to approach and meet with the humans who bonded with our outcast daughter." "Permission." "Granted," Captain Morrison replied. "Welcome to human space." The meeting that followed was historic. Clan Leader Theron was an impressive figure, tall and dignified, with the silver hair and blue-tinted skin common to his people. But when he saw Zara, alive and healthy, his formal composure cracked. "My daughter," he said, using a term of endearment. That Zara explained meant someone precious to the clan. "I thought you were lost to us forever." "I was," Zara replied. "But the humans showed me kindness when our own people showed me only rejection." Theron turned to Danny, studying him with the intense gaze that Danny had learned was common among the Veltar. "You are the one who bonded with her?" "I am," Danny said simply. "Why?" Theron asked. "What did you hope to gain?" Danny felt Zara's presence in his mind, encouraging him to speak honestly. "I didn't hope to gain anything. I just couldn't watch someone die when I had the power to help." Theron was silent for a long moment. Then he did something that surprised everyone. He knelt before Danny, a gesture that Zara later explained was the highest form of respect among the Veltar. "You have shown honor beyond what our own people demonstrated," Theron said. "I formally apologize for casting out Zara. She was wiser than the rest of us." More Veltar ships arrived over the following days. Soon, the space around the New Horizon was filled with vessels of different designs, representing clans from across the galaxy. Each ship brought volunteers who hoped to bond with humans, and human volunteers began arriving from Earth as well. Dr. Wright established a medical facility to oversee the bonding processes, using the knowledge gained from Danny and Zara's successful procedure. Not every attempted bonding was successful, but enough work to give both species hope for the future. "We're not just saving the Veltar," Dr. Rodriguez explained to the growing number of scientists who had arrived to study the phenomenon. "We're creating something entirely new. The bonded pairs have abilities that neither species possesses alone." Danny found this to be true. His partnership with Zara had given him insights into space navigation and alien psychology that made him invaluable to the diplomatic missions that were forming. Other bonded pairs reported similar enhancements, with humans gaining Veltar knowledge and abilities while the Veltar gained human creativity and adaptability. 6 months after Zara's first desperate call for help, the Kepler 442 system had become the center of a new alliance. The Veltar clans had voted to establish a permanent settlement in the system, working alongside humans to build the first joint colony between the two species. Danny and Zara stood together on the observation deck of the new space station that was being constructed. Through the massive windows, they could see human and Veltar ships working side by side, building something that neither species could have created alone. "Do you ever regret it?" Zara asked through their mental connection. "Giving up your old life to save me?" Danny smiled and took her hand. "I didn't give up my old life. I found a better one." Through their bond, Zara shared her joy and contentment. The wandering days of her people were ending, not in extinction but in a new beginning. The Veltar had found not just genetic compatibility but true partnership with humanity. "My people have a saying," Zara said aloud. "The stars guide us, but we choose our path." Danny looked out at the stars that seemed different now, filled with possibility rather than empty space. "I like that saying." In the distance, more ships were arriving. Human vessels carrying families who wanted to be part of the new colony, and Veltar ships bringing clans who had traveled across the galaxy to join the Alliance. What had begun as one alien's desperate plea for help had become the foundation for something much larger. "What do you think comes next?" Danny asked. Zara's mental voice carried excitement and hope. "Everything. We explore the galaxy together. We learn from each other. We build a future that neither of our species could imagine alone." Danny squeezed her hand and felt the warmth of their connection. He had volunteered to save one life, but in doing so, he had helped create a new chapter in the history of both species. The quiet communications specialist, who had always preferred to work in the background, had become part of something extraordinary. As the twin suns of the Kepler 442 system set behind the growing space station, Danny and Zara watched the stars appear one by one. Through their bond, they shared a moment of perfect understanding. They had found each other in the vastness of space, and together they had proven that sometimes the greatest adventures begin with a simple act of kindness.